And these are our panelists, and happy Women's History Month, everyone. Very happy that you could come. So I guess we're going to start. They've already given their introductions. Like I said, happy Women's History Month. Today, if you weren't aware, there is a panel that was supposed to be upstairs. It has been moved into the quiet room that's literally right next door. Way easier, not going to get lost, you just walk down the hall. Fabulous. At 8, there's going to be pizza and just a mixer, having a good time. As of right now, we're having a fun little panel. It's going to be related to women's history and also some history specifically in ATL. So we're going to talk about ASIFA-South and the history of WIA ATL as it's most recently been born. All right, so we're going to get on into it. So first we're going to do a few little history segments. So we're going to talk about women in animation specifically. Basically, it was created in 1993, and it has grown since then into the foremost nonprofit. It's advocacy for female identifying and non-binary people in animation, and it has over 11,000 members worldwide. In 2013, there was 60% of animation graduates were female, but women only held 20% of professional creative roles. And according to the Animation Guild, in 2020, 33% of creative roles were held by women. So that was like a huge 50% increase, which is fabulous, because if you didn't know, WIA's main thing is like 50-50 by 2025. So it's been doing a lot of stuff to accelerate and make gender a lot more inclusive in the animation industry. And let's talk about ASIFA Atlanta. So if you didn't know, it was founded by Linda Skimensky, who, of course, Women Animation, fabulous, and Primal Screen as well, also people here for that. And in 2017, ASIFA Atlanta got its blessing from ASIFA International and became ASIFA-South. And the ASIFA Festival Conference was born. So before we do anything, we're gonna give you all a little promo. It's happening this summer, so very fun. But here's the promo for the event. The room's over there. JK, guys. I'm hosting a panel, so will you please talk to who? Amelia? Okay. So that's just a fun, little exciting promo. Yeah, so we're gonna get into the first of our panel prompts, and they're supposed to be kind of related to the history little segments that we're doing since it is Women's History Month. But for all of you guys, you don't have to answer all of them. It's supposed to be more like a conversation, but let's talk about breaking into the industry. So what was your guys' journey? Who are your mentors, you know, and how does the industry nowadays different from the one that you got into? And you guys are welcome to start in any order.
Got the mic.
I'll start with the mic since I have the mic. And I have probably the most eclectic way of getting into the industry than anybody that I know here, just because I have no animation degree. I originally got into, right after high school, I did go to art school though for a couple of years as was an illustrator. That illustration was my major. But I didn't know if I was ready for that and started graphic design, didn't think that was for me, so I took some time off, traveled around, and then I ended up going back to university, and my degree is actually in theater, so I was actually an actor-director, or in the actor-director program, and was acting for probably 4 years in Minneapolis, which I'm from the Twin Cities. So I was actually, my degree is in theater, but I had ran into somebody who was starting an animation studio in Minneapolis. And with the idea that I'd already had some art background, some creative art background, I thought it was an interesting way to take my art and my theater and put it together, because what is animation but acting with a pencil? So I got all of my experience. I was just talking about my free internship. For 6 months, I just worked part-time with a guy who was starting up the studio. And he taught me sort of the basics, the principles of animation, these squashes and stretches and the secondary motions and that kind of thing. And eventually just worked my way up. He was able to pay me after a while. And then after that, I went into sort of freelance work up in Minnesota, but that didn't really pan out much because there was only two animation studios up there at that time. But I ended up getting a job down here. That's what brought me to Atlanta, and I started multiple studios down here, but landed at Primal for a good 8 years, I think. I was working at Primal. And then I drifted over to long form, as I said, which I was excited to start telling longer stories than a minute, 60 seconds, 15 seconds. So yeah, I didn't really I've never had an animation course in my life. I've done some seminars, but I've never actually sat down and learned the principles. So you can get into the animation industry, multiple ways. I just got into it in a very unusual way, yeah.
Well, I guess my journey kind of started in high school. I was on both the yearbook and newspaper staff. I was the only person that did both. But it was really cool because we had the only Macs in the building. We had a network of the blue iMacs. Yeah. So I got some experience and some exposure to not even After Effects then, but it was just Adobe products. So Photoshop. Yep. And it was fun because we got, in the time that I was working on it, we went from doing paste ups to actually using InDesign. So it was a move from the very physical, putting everything out on the ground and gluing it together and then sending it off to
on the grid paper.
Yeah, so then I was really lucky that I found SCAD. I went to SCAD. I had an early acceptance, so I didn't really look very hard for where I was going to go to school. So I was very fortunate to end up at SCAD, and I actually went for graphic design and had a mix-up with one of my prerequisites and ended up taking a 300 level course as a freshman.
Wow.
And it was
really hard.
Yeah. What class was that?
It was an After Effects class.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So it was an elective that people that were nearing graduation were taking. And I, day one, was like, I've never opened After Effects. I don't know what I'm doing. I should probably just drop this class. And luckily, there was another student who was like, it's not that big of a deal. Come in on Saturday, I'll give you a crash course. And I ended up finishing the class. And that was really how I got into doing motion graphics. And it's a testament to how great the community is.
Yeah.
It's like, even now, people just want to help each other. So that is kind of where I started out. And then I actually, when I moved to Atlanta after school, started working on Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Squidbillies, although not with Daniel.
Came later.
And then since then, I've been working at different studios around Atlanta. And then with COVID, I've now been able to branch out and freelance with studios all over the country.
Hello, I'm probably the oldest person here, so I'm just going to be really straight with you guys. I was cutting film on a steam back and taping it together when I learned.
My first job was painting cells.
Yeah. So that's how far back I go. I am a student of art school as well. I attended School of Visual Arts in New York, which, if anyone here is a big comic book fan, a lot of very big inkers and artists from SVA are now doing comic books, and I of course went in their early film and television program. So it was very small. There was only 5 women in a class of 150. So if you walked through the door and said you were a woman who wanted to be in film and television, they threw buckets of money at you and praised you and said, please, please, please come to our school. So it was an interesting time to get into the business because there were not a lot of women in high places. So I started as an edit assist in the basement of a PR satellite company where we did satellite media tours for a lot of famous people. And I was considered a client librarian, which means I got people coffee and handed them their tapes and made sure the room was clean. And then they eventually let me touch equipment, so I became an edit assist. So I was working and doing Chiron, which is putting graphics over video, loading 1-inch machines, doing very simple things like that in rooms full of men who did not know how to behave or relate to a woman who was in television. So it was an interesting time. And, you know, I did the free internship. We did not get paid back then. I also did a lot of what I called free grunt work to prove myself as a woman back then. If you could carry equipment, you could carry that heavy camera and that huge deck we used to have to carry around. That was considered a plus. So I did a lot of that to work my way up, and eventually went from the basement of a PR firm into talk shows, which I will tell you, if you ever get a job on a talk show, say no and run the other way. Because I think after 1 month, I was like, why did I go to college for this? I never want to work in TV again. So I left that job and kind of sat on a beach for a month and said, nope, I'm going to go back. This is what I want to do. I went to school for it. And ended up over at the NBC affiliate, CNBC, with a former producer at the talk show I was at. And I guess my career has been all over the place. I've been in news, I was in business news, I was in regular news, moved to Atlanta, came to CNN, did news with them, and then said, I'm tired of this, I want to do fun stuff, and moved to Adult Swim. And the key to doing that and to moving around and like your story, if you have the skills and the desire and you want to do it, there are people out there who will help you do it. Just know how to approach them and listen and learn and keep an open mind. This business is very crazy and no one's going to have a straight course to wherever they go. It does not happen like that, so you might be thinking right now, I'm going to be a director when I get out of here. Maybe one day you will, but for right now, consider doing something else for a little while and working with people and mentoring with someone who's a director that you can learn a lot from, and that's my best advice.
Isn't it great that we're at a mixer to talk to people?
Okay, so my story, I guess starts with, I was a ballerina. So I was pre-professional. I had to make a choice when I went to college if I wanted to pursue a dance career or a different career. I chose to go to Emory and study business because that seemed more lucrative than a dance career. But I always was, drawn to the arts, drawn to creativity. So I took an elective, film studies. And, I just thought it was just something kind of fun and cool and awesome. And my professor took me aside and said, hey, you should consider this as your second major. And I said, oh no, that's silly. What am I gonna do with this? So, I kind of, through college, basically decided that I wanted to be a producer. So, my background is more business. I work on a lot of budgets. I do a lot of negotiations, scheduling, all the really boring stuff.
Important stuff.
Yeah.
It's extremely important.
But I do want to say, actually, Jeff, I really, what you said resonated with me because a lot of my animators have said that they wanted to be actors, but they were too shy or they had like stage fear, and animation was a form that they could act through. So I find that really interesting, and I'm not saying that everybody, is here for that, but I find that very interesting. So anywho, so yeah, I decided that I thought I wanted to work in live action. I did that for a bit and decided that I did not like working those hours. So I got a job at a post-production studio. I really liked working in post-production. That's actually where I met Dania. She was my client when she was at CNN. And then a position opened up at Primal Screen, and I was like, well, dang, I want to go work in animation. And I do have a side story to tell real quick. So my brother and my mom went to Kennesaw in the 90s. My brother worked in the computer lab, and I would come hang out with him. and his coworker, I'm not gonna condone this, but he pirated anime. So I got introduced to anime when I was 16, 17 in the 90s and was just in love, just absolutely enthralled. So that's kind of where I fell in love with animation. So it was just serendipitous that I was able to actually find a career in animation, and I really do love it. It's great. So yeah, I think that's kind of my story. I'll hang on to
You
this.
can clap, you can clap, why not? Fabulous. Is this for the panelists?
Yes.
Okay.
you.
I'm so special. Mystery drinks.
I know.
Here?
Is it beer? Yeah.
I was just gonna say, just right.
I hope not. But, so we're gonna go into a few quick studies that are from Annenberg and WIA. These studies are from 2016. There is one from 2020, however, it focused specifically on these effects, and while that is animation, it's more niche, and we wanted to use the 2016 study since it was more broad to the entire animation industry. But I found it very interesting when Daniel was talking about it was very hard to find women who were higher up, because even in 2019, apologies, that was the year, you still see that's a really big issue. So here's some statistics, but you see that a lot of leads, it's very low numbers to see people of colors who specifically who are women, and just women in general. So it's very sad still. And again, still with the higher up, especially in film, the numbers, where's the live action one? I thought that's what it was referring to. But again, the numbers get a lot smaller the higher up that you go. These are some strategic ways of targeting that and trying to work around that. And you see a lot of these things happening through ASIFA-South and through WIA in general, which is really great. And so I guess that's what our next prompt is. It's about inclusion and initiatives. Specifically in Atlanta, we see a lot of things like incubator programs happening here. And so what's unique about the ATL animation community, and what were some of the most impactful and inclusive productions or organizations that you've been a part of, specifically here in Atlanta?
Alrighty. I'm actually going to talk about some of my elf-on-the-shelf work. So I produced 3 Netflix specials for Elf on the Shelf, and we continue to do work with them. A lot of animated shorts. Is that Joanna back there? Joanna's worked on some of the Elf on the Shelf stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just literally just saw your face and I was like, wait, what's happening? So one of the awesome things about Elf on the Shelf was we got to build a team from scratch. We didn't really know what we were doing. And we just figured it out. And we ended up with a lot of women and a lot of folks who were not, like a lot of folks from SCAD who were not native to Atlanta or the US. We had lots of folks from India and South America and all over, literally all over the globe. It was awesome. And it was really, it was really fun to experience working on something with those folks for 9 months. And, the Elf on the Shelf stuff is not particularly earth-shattering, but we had a lot of fun doing it, and we kind of, like I said, invented our own ways of doing stuff. So, and we're very close, and we all continue to work together. It's been about 7 years And what was the other question?
I was talking about some things that are just unique about the Atlanta community versus other communities that you've been in, specifically for animation.
I don't know, I mean, I can kind of pass this off to you guys, but I think Atlanta specifically is a very, very, very close-knit community. We all have ended up like, you know, like Dania and I worked together 15 years ago, and now we're working together with Leah. You know, Kelsey worked at CNN.
We've all worked together.
Yeah,
just
we've
Yeah,
not all
just
at the same time.
It's, yeah. So it's a very close-knit community, and once you can kind of get in the door, I don't know, we all stayed pretty close.
Yeah, you learn who your allies are, and that's actually something I'm gonna mention. So I was lucky enough to, I mean, I started in New York City, and I don't think you can get more diverse than New York City. My news director was one of the first Black females to ever run a news station. She also ran a news station in LA after she ran New York. And my little creative marketing group was, I'd say 90% Latino. Especially working at WNBC in New York, we did things like the Puerto Rican Day Parade, so we had to know Spanish. I learned a great deal of Spanish, worked with people like Jose Feliciano, which maybe some of you know, maybe some of you are like, who is that? Very famous musician, look him up. He did a really wonderful rendition of the Star Spangled Banner in a particularly Latino style, and ruffled some feathers back in the day when that wasn't considered okay. And it was beautiful and it was wonderful. So I kind of grew up in a very diverse community and saw women in power finally. This was in the late 90s. So when I made the jump to Atlanta, I was kind of raring to go and ready to see who was out there and look for my cohorts. And I will say Atlanta, you will make a friend in Atlanta, and that will be your friend for life. And those people, no matter where they are, what they do, they will always help you. You should always find your group and stay with that group. I was lucky enough to make a very good friend when I moved here, and she had moved here from Alabama, because no one's actually from Atlanta. That's the one thing I learned. And she knows, you know, everyone from like the garden club to like the president of whatever company. It's kind of funny how it works. And those are the kind of people you seek out, because in this industry, that's how you find diversity, that's how you learn new things. You don't want to totally surround yourself by the same people and live in a bubble. You want to learn about other cultures, you want to learn about other things, you want to be in environments that are different from your own. Otherwise, how do you learn to be a storyteller? I mean, that's essentially what we all want to do. Whether you're writing, whether you're directing, whether you're animating, whatever you're doing, acting, you have to tell a story. And the only way you learn to tell a story is to hear more and more stories every day. So that is my advice. And I would say here in Atlanta, what's really fun to me too is the music culture. The music culture is so integrated with the art community here. That was great. Like back when I was in college, we had things like the Beastie Boys coming up and all this stuff happening. It was very integrated, but it wasn't as accessible, excuse me, I've been talking all day, as it is here in Atlanta. It's way more inclusive, way more accessible. They're looking for young people with great ideas. Also, Atlanta is a great place where to start your own, like Kelsey was saying, COVID hit, well, I can work from home if I'm an animator. I can work out of my house. So a lot of people started their own small businesses together, and there's a couple of great female animators who started up and are doing a lot of great videos. There's a great comedy team out there. They call themselves the Black Cousins. They're fantastic. They have a bunch of stuff on YouTube. They also do a bunch of animations with a small company that we've worked with on the Aqua Teen movie. So there are people out there and there's communities to follow, and you really should go outside your circle, because that's how you get into that community in Atlanta.
Well, I think this kind of, I'm gonna piggyback off of what you said, with people, like the friendships and how close-knit Everything is, every job I've had, I've picked up friends along the way. Even people that I met my first day on the job, right out of college, still friends to this day. I just had a friend over last week who I met on my very first day. So I think it's really important to keep those friendships close. Make sure that you keep in touch with people because, like I said, we've all worked together at some point, and you don't get away from each other.
I still talk to my first boss from the basement job I had in the PR agency, if that gives you any.
And I signed Kelsey's marriage license, so.
Oh yeah, Ashley came to my wedding. So we're connected forever.
That's a story for another time.
And also, just the community is really great. I'm admin for a meetup group called Ease ATL. Need to do a little better job on organizing some more events. But it's just a bunch of like-minded people that get together and just completely nerd out about the thing they love. We're all super passionate about what we do, and it comes really easily to just spend time with all of those people and make friendships and get connections that way.
I'm not sure I can say a ton more than what they've said, other than the fact that I think as young people starting in the business, and at this time, you have a bigger challenge and a bigger hurdle than we might have, because there are things that are remote these days. The majority of, I haven't even gone back to the studio to work in person at Floyd County since COVID hit. So many, I know Primal Screen is remote now, so you are gonna find, I think you're gonna have to get out there a little bit more. You're gonna have to put yourself out there because it's not as though you can kind of become part of a studio and then you get to know the people. So it's gonna be a big challenge. I wish I had some really good advice about that, other than the fact that you gotta put yourself out there and look at what's there. But I can't even imagine coming out of school and starting in this industry at this time. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be the down, but it's a tough thing because the studio experience has really got us where we are. And not that I think that we're going to be always like this. I know that things are moving towards that, but it's also moving to a more global looking situation as well. The Atlanta community is, as you said, small, but the universities and the institutions are very supportive of the community, as well as all these studios showing up. I mean, Bento Box, opened their studio here in town. We have Floyd County doing, multiple television shows. Now, we did have a big issue recently. I mean, I think that the animation industry is sort of at a slump because of these, I don't know necessarily if it's the strikes or what happened, but things are a little stalled at the moment. Yeah.
You were giving a perfect segue.
What's that?
Perfect segue.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. No, but keep going. Keep
Oh,
going.
well, I can
Good.
just say that I know that for us, I was in the middle of Floyd County for almost a year. I was nursing a project that was just going around and around because the strike hit and we thought it was going to be a couple of weeks, and then we realized it was going to be a couple of months, and then it was going to be almost half a year. And it was, between the writers and the actors, it was just difficult to get anything off the ground. And I think there's a bit of gun shyness at this point too. So I do think it's going to take, I do think the industry is ramping up and it's on its way back, but I do think it's going to take a little bit of time. So patience.
Don't feel bad if you're not right out the gate,
Right.
I'm so glad that you made that perfect segue. So this is recent history. If you guys didn't know, there was a writers and actors strike. If you don't know why that happened, essentially there is the AMPTP, which is the Motion Picture and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, and basically they have contracts with actors, with the Writing Guild. There's also an Animation Guild, and when these contracts kind of come up, when there's new things like AI or streaming residuals, which were specifically kind of a big reason as to why these strike happened. If they aren't kind of meeting on the same field for like negotiating on, we need X amount of residuals for streaming, or we need certain rules for AI, people will go on strikes And that ended up happening, and that's why you see a lot of jobs kind of stopped coming up, because animation is still closely tied with California and with live action, even though you might not think it. So even though the animation contract still has until this summer, you see that it has affected our industry. And so that was kind of what our next point was going to be, is what kind of impacts have we faced in the wakes of these strikes? Like, how has it inadvertently affected our industry, and as well as the future, like what can we expect from ATL now that it's here? Happy birthday, you guys. I mean, it's their birth, I guess.
Well, I mean, I do think too, there's two sides to this coin when we talk about coming into this industry at this point, because yes, you don't have the studio experience, but you can be working from all over, not only all over the country, but all over the globe. So I also don't want to, I was sort of sounding a bit of a doomsayer, but at the same point, look at it the other side, is that you're more accessible than you ever were before. So as long as you keep at your work, do solid work, and get it out there so that people can see it, you can work anywhere in the world, frankly.
And there's great new communities, like we ATL and ASIFA-South, and like
Absolutely.
ASIFAC's coming up, so y'all, it's great.
Eddie's.
Yeah. Oh, you want to say, I'm gonna add to what you.
I'm gonna add to what he said, because don't think that just because the studios are dragging their little butts around that you aren't gonna work. Because I will tell you, there's advertising, there's commercials, there's the comic book industry. There are a million jobs out there that are still working that you can get into, and that will be a great jumping point for you if you do want to go into film and television. So start, like I said, not to repeat myself a million times, look outside your bubble, go outside, think outside the box, as I say. I hate that statement. I will also say that animation takes a long time, so it's going to take us a little bit of time to recover from that, because you stopped us down. If you have to go back and re-record, that might be, new drawings, new background, so animation's going to take a little bit longer to return. But when you see the amazing stuff that is coming out right now, like Blue-Eyed Samurai Brad, you can see where the industry is going. And I think that show has had a major effect on the decision making that's happening right now about whether or not to greenlight adult animation. Because that is the difference. There will always be animation for children. It's the adult market they haven't quite figured out yet. Adult Swim kind of cornered that market, beat it into their own little place. But with new ownership and stuff, things are changing. So don't be dismayed. I really think that, there's enough stuff out there, and it's enough time for you to go out, and I'm gonna say this honestly, go out, do your own stuff, post it on YouTube, make your portfolio, do what you want to do now so that you have something to show people, and use that when you're going for jobs, because you're never gonna have a time when you start to get a career to say, oh yeah, I want to do this project. You know how many times I have projects sitting on my desk at home that are my personal things I've wanted to do? Years. So now is the time. Seize on them.
I garden.
A lot of us do, actually.
Yeah.
Something with
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of us do vegetable gardening. I don't know why. What are we talking? Oh, yes. The strikes. Yeah, I mean, for us at Primal, we were very, very busy after the industry sort of caught up to itself in later 2020, because we were, some of the few folks that could keep working. And I was actually working, Kelsey and I were working nonstop, all day, every day, Saturday and Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Like, it was bonkers. To the point where after a few months, all of us were like, oh my God, we cannot keep working like this. This is insane. And then 2021 was pretty busy. And And then 2022, a lot of mergers happened, a lot of changes in the industry happened, and everybody just stopped spending money. So that was not a great year. So for us, that was pretty bad. The strikes didn't necessarily affect us because well, first of all, a lot of the writers we work with were in the Animation Guild, and they were not a part of the strike. So a lot of the writers that I worked with could continue to work. And a lot of the stuff that I do with Primal is short form. It's not, long form production work. So, we're still pretty busy right now. A lot of what we're doing is, we have a lot of advertising work. We have a lot of gaming work. We do a lot of stuff in the preschool market. So, there's still definitely work out there. And I would echo, what everybody else is saying is it's just like work on stuff that you think is really cool, put it on your portfolio, because, my folks that are upstairs, I don't know.
They're
Next door,
Guys,
right?
I'm so sorry for the confusion, but we stayed downstairs. We were like, no one's in this room, it's ours now.
So they got the room open and then they went upstairs.
Okay, so
I'm
they're
a
upstairs.
liar.
Well, anywho, two of my directors are here, Fumi Izawa and Joe Kubashevsky. They're awesome. They love fostering folks that are new to the industry and reviewing portfolios and giving you guys advice and actually looking at the artistry and storytelling that you're doing. So, as much feedback as you can and get in front of those people and get input, like that's going to be really helpful. So I don't know. That's again, I'm the money budget person.
I am so glad that you guys touched on like everything. It was perfect. I know that a lot of people had confusions on the difference between the Writers Guild and the Animation Guild, so I'm so happy that you touched on that, especially in like animation commercials. Earlier this year, we were supposed to have in this couple who does animation studio work. They had a family crisis, so they couldn't come in. But there's still like a lot of work to be had in animation and other facets that you might, again, if you're in that one bubble. So I'm really glad that you guys got to touch on that, because I feel like when you're going into animation, you're thinking like, oh, cartoons or like kids animation. But I'm glad that you guys.
Yeah, like Pixar. Woo!
Yeah, exactly. But there is so much more than just that.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that. It's good to be flexible on what you do too. I recently just finished working on a contract for a couple months on a video game, which was not an industry that I am particularly familiar with, but it was a lot of fun, got to learn on the job. And now I'm doing product renders for Lowe's. And so it's just a variety of things that you can find. The work is out there, because I've been incredibly busy. And if you can just keep an open mind about what you're happy to work on, you can find work and find a lot of enjoyment out of a lot of different things.
Also, Kelsey's really talented.
So not everyone can be her. So.
And also, if you really are passionate about something and have an idea for a personal project, that inspiration isn't always there. So I would say take advantage of it, because you can't necessarily rely on everything that you work on for your portfolio. Because not everything you do is the fun, cool thing that makes you the cool Aunt Kelsey when you tell people.
Sometimes
There's
work
things
is
called
work.
clients that you deal
Yeah.
with,
Right.
so be prepared.
Right. Super fun. So I believe, okay, so before we do congratulations to some people, we're just gonna go into Q&A. We're gonna do that before we break for dinner. So we have about 15 minutes. I'm gonna steal like 2 of those minutes for that last thing. But does anyone have questions that they want to give? Wow. A single one right there.
Jeff, do you know Jenna Zona? Of course.
Of course we do, Jenna.
I mean, I think everybody here knows Jenna.
Yeah, I think we
She
all
worked
do.
at Primal Screen,
Yeah,
Cool.
she teaches at SCAD.
Yeah, no, she's one of my teachers. I have two
Yeah.
classes of this
Okay,
I was
yeah.
just, you said that you worked the same thing that she worked on, and I was curious.
So
Old friends.
she animation directed that short that I played at the
Oh,
beginning.
okay.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
I
Cool.
didn't know that either.
I just had lunch with her 2 weeks ago.
So,
I just-
everybody
Again,
does-
to reiterate,
Yeah.
close-knit community.
Yeah, absolutely.
If no one else has a question, I'll go ahead and say, oh, JK, you guys, there's two over there. First,
Yeah.
and then you. I was gonna have the lady first.
Okay, Ms. Davis.
Yeah.
I am about to start, I've been part of a different animation group called Creative Society, and I'm gonna get to be a sort of functioning producer.
Okay.
I'm going to act as a producer in a short film, it's an animatic this coming month. And I was curious if you have any suggestions. I am not studied, I have an interdisciplinary degree, so I've not per se studied paid production, but I'm interested in working in that. And I would be curious if you have any tips on what I should be considering, what skills I might want to focus on developing, and how to keep a cool head in the middle of what may be a chaotic next month for me.
Oh, okay, well, I do kickboxing, so I don't know if that's for everybody, but that definitely.
And gardening on your.
Yeah, and gardening, yes, and gardening, and a lot of cooking. I personally find a cool head in a spreadsheet, that's just me. So I will break down a budget, break down all of the phases, break down all of the people. That sounds terrible, but, and then, you know, what I think it's going to take to do each phase of the production. And then what I think is very, very important is that you run it by your creative team. Because sometimes my assumptions are not going to jive with what their assumptions are. And I'm actually kind of shocked as a producer that so many folks do not collaborate with their creative partner to come up with a budget, a plan, a schedule. To me, that's
It's a pain.
like you have to.
You have to do it.
You have to do it because you're not going to set yourself up for success if your creative team is not aligned with the,
The creatives want it too.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the creatives want it too.
yeah. So I find that starting with a spreadsheet, building out what you think is going to take to do the production, that can help you build a schedule, depending on, sorry, my brain is catching up with me. You know, if you're working with a client, you have to consider how many check-ins you need, you know, how many layers of approval. I mean, you know, it sounds like you're kind of working on something that's probably a little bit more personal, but you know, a lot of times you have to consider, like, okay, well, yeah, I'm working with Adult Swim, but Adult Swim is working with the NBA,
Yeah.
and then the NBA is working with Nike, like, I don't, and so you have all these layers of approvals that you have to kind of consider.
Do you do paper cut? Do you know where the paper cut is?
Yeah, I don't do it,
Yeah,
but,
so I was gonna say to add to everything she's saying, depending on, so there's two sides to producing. There's sort of the budget scheduling side, and then there's sort of the creative side, and then there's line producing and all stuff, and
Yeah.
I do both, and neither one is easy. So I will say to you, to me, the person that I always look to to be the best producer, the best coordinator, the best person is the person who can see 10 steps ahead and who can
Yes, absolutely.
kind of make sure all the parts are talking to each other. Like, that's very key. So I do something what I used to call is a paper cut. And in production, a paper cut is, as when I was writing and producing a spot, I would literally write out the script, and then next to the script, each shot, the music, sound effects, whatever was going to happen in that script. That's what I call a paper cut. So what I found useful as a producer is sort of taking that idea and turning my projects into a paper cut. Okay, so day one, we're doing X, Y, and Z. Okay, so who's on staff that day? What are the props are needed? What's the time frame? What's lunch? Whatever I have to plan out is sort of broken down in that way. So I'll have a sheet for almost every day, depending on what I'm doing. And then I'll have, on top of that, I'll have separately what I call an overarching outline that is the entire project that I can refer to and make sure my paper cut is in line and that I'm staying on budget. It's a tap dance while spinning plates, while herding cats.
Oh, God.
Don't let anyone tell you anything different. Producing is
Lots of cats.
not easy. And it takes a very certain personality type to do it. Because you really do have to be diplomatic, and strategic in the way you think about things and really be able to handle like anything coming at you. Because that's the person they're gonna call. They're not gonna call the director or the showrunner. They're gonna say, where's the producer?
And actually, just to riff on that, part of my job is being like a counselor, like. I'm not gonna look at Kelsey.
I have needed support. You're a cheerleader, like you really are.
You have to be, available, and I mean, all you guys are here because you are interested in creative, works, and I am as well. But there's different personalities that come with what we do. I mean, I was a dancer. I worked with a lot of crazy personalities, but I love them. Like, that makes us unique and awesome. And sometimes you just have to support each other and be there and be like, what do you need? Talk to me. How can I help? And then I figure out what you need. I will go to
Terrible, thank you.
the leadership team and try to, do what I can to fix it. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry. I feel like we've been like kind of meandering around. Okay.
I was like watching her take the most beautiful like handwritten notes, and I'm just like
Producer!
producer.
Oh.
It's just like the most beautiful.
Yeah, no, my handwriting looks like I'm a psychopath, so nobody should ever look at my notes.
But we also learned that Ashley does everything. She dances and gardens and kickboxes. Fabulous, thank you guys. And we have our next question.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi, you mentioned earlier about finding people in your creative journey who are willing to help you move forward. How do you find those people, and how would you recommend appropriately approaching them and building relationships?
Okay, great question, and I actually was thinking about this earlier today because I was talking to one of the students at SCAD. LinkedIn is a tool we all know, we love it, hate it, whatever. The thing is if you want to connect with someone, don't just send them a connect. Send them something, sort of a hook. Why do you want to know me? What is your purpose in reaching out to me? I'm a new designer. I'm looking to expand my circle. I'm interested in women in animation. May we connect? That's a message I would definitely respond to. The things that get harder to respond to are, I have a really great idea, will you read my script? You can't do that in this business. And it's not because we don't want to, we would love to, but there are legal ramifications. If I read your script and I produce something and then you come back and say, she read my script and it's my script. So there's things, so don't arbitrarily just send your creative work to someone. The way you find your people I would say is bonding on a set, bonding on a project. Like if there's someone here at school that you partner really well with, that is someone that needs to be in your circle. And your circle starts to expand as you go through, like I said, different social circles. You might meet somebody in kickboxing that you really love. They may not be an animator, but they might know the president of Georgia Public, whatever, and they can connect you to someone. Or, like my friend, like I said, she's like, part of a garden club and whose wife is in the garden club that may work at a huge advertising agency here in Atlanta. So don't necessarily just look in the arts community. Look outside your community, talk to people, tell people what you do. I like to think that part of the reason I started my career in journalism is that I was always that little kid that said, but why? But why? But why? And because I'm like that, I will talk to people in the supermarket. I will talk to, my therapist says, you'll talk to a tree, Dan. And it's true, I would. But I'm not saying you have to be that open, because I know that's hard for people. I happen to find that easy, and I'm comfortable that way. If you're not comfortable, find the way that is comfortable for you. If it's writing a letter, like I said, if you want to email somebody or send them a message on LinkedIn, but always give them a reason why you want to contact them. And always, be yourself. People are, especially in our business, people are happy to talk about themselves, especially the higher you go up the chain. You get a director, an actor out here, oh, and I've done this. They're happy to do it. And, like I said, hearing people's stories and seeing how, and watching how they connect will help you connect and will help you tell your story as well. And that's kind of the best advice I can give. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to add, which is going to be unpopular.
We like unpopular.
I think a lot of what I learned that helped me in my particular journey professionally was waiting tables. I worked
Did customer service too.
Yeah, I worked in retail, I waited tables for a long time, I worked at a dive bar for a while. Yep, Kelsey worked at a dive bar.
Waited tables for 12 years.
Yeah, see? But it actually helps you, and I'm not suggesting that you guys all drop out of college and go work at a bar. But working in retail or waiting tables or what have you, it gives you these skills where you're like, holy crap, I'm dealing with a really terrible person and I have to, deal with this personality or, whatever and make it right. And that's kind of what you're gonna have to do, dealing with directors and other producers and an art director that's flipping out on set and you're like, oh my God. So, it's developing people skills, and learning how to juggle a lot of things at once. Not suggesting that it's for everybody, but if you would like to be a producer, it's kind of like waiting tables. So,
All right.
unpopular.
So we're gonna have we have time for one very quick question.
Sure.
Because technically we are going just a little bit over.
Oh, sorry.
No, y'all are
I'll be
doing great.
quick. Great advice, by the way. I did recruitment for 15 years, so get on. My question, I'm a digital designer developer for an organization called Earth Justice, support them as a nonprofit. And I'm looking at you because my question is specifically for you. Do you ever get requests for animation for websites and things of that nature?
Yeah, I get requests for all kinds of stuff. I don't work a lot in the web, and even making my personal website is a chore for me. But yeah, people have all kinds of requests, and I've done stuff specifically for viewing on the web. Not everything goes broadcast, not.
Well, a lot of the CSAFE stuff was, you prepared all those assets for web.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did an interactive project where I did product renders, and it was really cool. You could spin everything around, you could look at all the different details of the product, but that was something specifically for a website. I didn't do the coding on that.
Yeah.
We had another developer do the coding.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I know there are a lot of designers out there who will design, like you're saying, and then work with someone who will code it for them and place it all together and make it happen.
Yep.
All right. While we're talking, so a lot of people are together, so we wanted to just give some congratulations because there have been some shifts in ASIFA-South. So congratulations to Cassandra and Jeff. Congrats. So one of the the new executive producers for ASIFA-South, so I was like, why not? We might as well celebrate, so congratulations. Also, congrats to the new founding leadership for WIA, so Ashley Davis up here and also Dania. Thank you guys so much for coming
Next event, hopefully in May. Yeah, we're working on it.
Working on it, we promise.
Keep your eye out. And then we're going to say congrats to our officer-elects. There's 2 pages for this, but if you guys are like, wow, I love talking about myself, like Dania was saying. Our club hosts events once a month. We bring in speakers. We always try to compensate them. So if you are in here, if you could raise your hand if your name's on the screen by chance. Yeah, up here. Here's our president, vice president. And then we also raise your hand if you're on the screen now. So we have a bunch of people in this room. So congratulations to you guys. And if you want, if you want to talk about yourself, talk to the people who raise their hands, and they can help that happen. Yeah, go get pizza and mingle and have a good time. Thank you guys so much for coming. And thanks for sorry about